The Pew Hispanic Center estimates that of March 2010, 11.2 million unauthorized immigrants live in the United States, and about 7 million of them migrated from Mexico. Why do so many Mexicans choose to illegally immigrate to the U.S., where they are often treated with contempt and disrespect? And if they really want to become U.S. citizens, why don't they play by the rules and enter legally? Why do so many choose to make the grueling 4-day journey through the Arizona desert that involves a very real risk of dehydration in 115-degree heat and rape at the hands of human smugglers? It's absurd to expect someone to go to the back of the line that never ends. If the U.S. wants Mexican immigrants to play by its rules, a set of rules must be created that includes them in the game. The design of the current U.S. immigration system is based upon a model from nearly a half-century ago. A 21st century immigration policy should recognize Mexico's unique status as a neighbor of the U.S. Surely Mexican workers would prefer to enter legally, and moreover the U.S. economy is dependent on their skills and labor. Something must be done. Pulse Opinion Research, on behalf of the Federal American Immigration Reform, conducted a poll and found out that 54% of voters oppose the DREAM Act compared to 38% who support its passage. We obviously need to reform our outdated laws, but a majority of Americans do not favor amnesty. Amnesty will only ease the symptom, not the root cause of this immigration influx. Americans want to fix the problem, and our politicians like to play one side against the other for their gain and all of our misfortune. Let us rise up, agree to fix this just like we would any other crisis. These immigrants are people, just like our forefathers came here searching for a better life. Most of these people have nothing and gave up everything for a dream. What if this hit home to you? What if Illinois or some other neighboring state said they are only going to allow a certain number of people to cross this border and made it illegal for you to even pass through? I know what I would do. I'd go through there anyway if I had reason. The same argument that Hispanics are making right now at the border states. They have a family to feed, and as they search for a better life, they see our America shining at them. They will come whether we tell them they are allowed to or not. What we are currently doing is not sustainable and creates hardship, suffering, and death. We need to change our current immigration policy to allow easier ways to immigrate. Let us consider a 30-year-old Mexican with a high school education and a sibling who is a citizen of the U.S. According to data compiled by Forbes magazine and the U.S. Department of State, playing by the rules and applying for a green card would mean waiting for 131 years. Why such a long wait? The short answer is that current regulations limit any single country to 7% of the total number of green cards allotted by Congress in any given year. Mexico is subject to this limit just like any other country, even though it is the world's 11th most populated country and a neighbor to the United States. Decreasing or eliminating legal immigration will inevitably create and cause more incentive to come to the country illegally, which leads to less assimilation and fewer tax-paying, law-abiding citizens. As we're talking about law, let's talk about another way to ease crime and suffering for these immigrants is to let us take the fight out of the cartels, which are victimizing immigrants from all over. Just like the end of Prohibition killed the gangsters, we can kill the cartels if we wanted. According to Federation for American Immigration Reform, there are 72,000 criminal aliens in federal custody at the end of 2007 solely because of drug charges. Even if only 10% of these were because of marijuana, removing that 10% from the prison population and sending them back to their home country would save almost $200 million per year. Legalizing marijuana, while still controversial, would be a step in the right direction, and it would ease prison overcrowding, reduce drug cartels' influence, and have the potential to greatly increase tax revenue. Yet despite these obvious advantages, the United States and many other countries still dole out harsh punishments on even the most casual users of marijuana. This is a policy that must come to an end. Homeland Security resources that focus on illegal immigrants can be directed to to tracking and finding terrorists and dangerous cartel members. Lascano, the leader of the feared Zetas cartel, was killed by Mexican Marines. He commanded an organization that dominates drug routes along Mexico's Gulf Coast and has become famous for ruthless acts of violence, like the mass execution of 72 migrants in the north of Mexico. These are not nice people. They kill and rape routinely, and yet we concentrate on Juan the gardener who crossed here illegally? It blows my mind, and it should do the same to you. So it comes down to what to do. To address the problems of illegal immigrants entering the United States, there are two realistic options: do nothing, or establish a better legal mechanism for migration. The U.S. government orders strict border patrol and various immigration enforcement actions every year, costing us hundreds of millions of dollars. However, economists believe that no matter what the total amount spent on immigration, without inclusive reforms, these problems are only going to get worse. On the other hand, doing nothing is always an option, I guess, but the approach goes against U.S. policy of having laws. Organizing legal mechanisms for migration solves this process by removing workers with unknown identification and employers from a mere guessing game about the status of their employees. In any case, research has shown that workers switching from illegal status to illegal status will command a higher wage, but this cannot be argued because employers are already risking a lot of money in hiring illegal employees. Illegal immigration is persistent because it has a strong economic rationale. This is because low-skilled workers are increasingly scarce in the U.S., while they are still very abundant in Mexico and Central America. Some people would say reform would increase crime. I really honestly don't see how. Undocumented workers can't safely go to law enforcement agencies for help right now because they risk deportation, and that artificially spikes crime in undocumented immigrant communities. Eliminating this artificial barrier between immigrants and police would reduce crime, not increase it. Naysayers say it would reward lawbreakers. This is technically true, in much the same way that the repeal of prohibition rewarded lawbreakers. But that happens whenever the government repeals or revises an unnecessarily punitive law. In any case, undocumented workers have no reason to see themselves as lawbreakers in any meaningful sense. While overstaying their work visas is technically a violation of the immigration code, migrant workers have been doing that with our government's approval for decades. And even that if the U.S. government's participation in the NAFTA treaty that did so much recent harm to many Latin American labor economics in the first place, the United States is a logical place to look for work. We'd be able to count on the American justice system to protect wrong individuals and hold criminal immigrants accountable, whereas now illegals are afraid to be a part of the system due to possible deportation. It's humane to break up families that have built a life in America. So what should we do? Let's make it easier to immigrate. Let's revamp our outdated policies. It gives struggling people all over the world an opportunity for a better life. This country was built on immigrants who sought opportunity, political and religious freedom, and many other reasons. Amnesty is not the way, but a new process to fix this and open up our limited amount of citizens we incorporate. Illegal aliens are humans too. Far too long we have made it easy for them to be second-class citizens. Throughout our history we have done this various groups with always the same outcome. Sooner or later we have to accept them and incorporate the good to make us all better. So stand with me and tell our leaders we demand a better system. We demand a better life, away from crime. Demand a solution that allows us to still be a nation of laws. Demand a change with me.